You're listening to the All Four Seasons Home Show on News Radio 106.7. Here are your hosts, Dan Watkins and Jim Niarchos.
Welcome to the All Four Seasons Home Show with your host, Dan Watkins. I'm Jim Niarchos. And Dan, we're talking about the most important part of the home. And doggone it, it's not the garage door, so don't start.
Jim, I think you're wrong about that. However, roofs are very important to homes, and we have a roofer with us today, so we're gonna talk about roofs and everything about roofs.
Well, you know, roofs are very important, and for you do-it-yourselfers out there, don't get on the roof. Don't even think about it. I'm not getting on that roof. You getting on your roof?
No, do people get on their roof
They
anymore?
get on the roof, and they want to make sure that they see what's going on up there, as if when they saw it, they didn't even know what they're talking about. They wouldn't even recognize what the problem is.
No, that's right, Jim. And as always, you know, I've always have stories with contractors, and roofing is also one of those. I've got some good stories. We'll get into those later. But why don't you introduce our experts here?
I will. We're very proud and honored to have with us Georgia Roof Advisors. The owner is James Gasson, and the sales manager with him is John Wolford. John, welcome to the All Four Seasons Home Show.
Thanks for having us.
Hey, it's great to be here.
We would like to start off with our listeners knowing a little bit about you. James, if you could give a short bio on yourself and a little history of Georgia Roof Advisors, how it started and how it came along to this point.
So Georgia Roof Advisors has been around since 2009. It was originally owned by a guy called Dennis Stuntz. I bought the business in 2016, May 2016. I'm a CPA from England. And my wife's parents live in Marietta, and I've got a young family. We wanted to move close to them, so I bought the roofing business, and I've put a lot of resources in there. And my visa is to invest in America and create American jobs.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, Dan, going from a CPA to the owner of a roof company, that took a lot of courage. Just going from one thing to the other thing, you know, it's two different professions.
Well, yeah, it is, and it's kind of what I did. I did the same thing.
What did you do, Dan? Tell those
I
out
actually
there.
went to school to be a broadcaster and became a garage door person.
It's true, ladies and gentlemen. He really did.
It just took me about 20 years to get back into the broadcasting side of it, but you know, there's a lot of people that are doing that these days, and you start off thinking you're going to do one thing in life, and life gives you a little curveball. But at the end of the day, when you're doing it for yourself, it really feels better, no matter what you're doing.
But I was working for a major civil engineering company in London, so I've scaled things down from multi-year jobs and from over 1,000 staff to much smaller scale, and it keeps everything a lot simpler than it was in major civil engineering.
Hey, John.
Yes, sir.
How did you get into this business? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. I was hired as the interpreter for the business, and you as you listen to James, you know he's not from North Georgia or South Georgia.
Well, I know it sounds like he's from the Bronx,
yeah,
New York.
really. Right? But you know, you hear a garage is a garage, gasoline is petrol, and if it's useless, it's rubbish. So, no, James is a great guy. I've got about 7 years worth of experience here in Georgia and Eastern Tennessee, and really we're just a really great team where he brings the eye for detail, numbers, CPA background. On the other hand, I've never met a stranger, and so bringing the experience of what it actually takes to do this in the field with just awesome ownership and whatnot is really it's a win-win for both sides and for the homeowner.
Well, I'm sure you're bringing James around on the roofing too, and just Atlanta and the market and everything that goes with it. How long did you just start with Georgia Roof Advisors, or had you worked for previous roofing companies?
I had worked for another roofing company for just about 4 years. And was recruited by Georgia Roof Advisors before I came on board. The timing just wasn't right. But I had spoken to James while he was in Wales, paying probably $5 a minute for the connection that we had. And the door was just opened up, and it was fantastic. So
I'd like to ask you gentlemen this. What are the qualifications a reputable roofing company should have? I mean, for the homeowner out there, I saw these roofing companies. I don't know what to ask them, what kind of qualifications or certifications or insurance or whatever. Let them know. What do they need to do?
So excellent question, and here's the biggest red flag I can share with you is that you don't actually need a special license to do this work in the state of Georgia.
You're kidding.
Absolutely not. So here's some of the things you need to look at. You really need to log on to the Better Business Bureau and find out how long has the company been in business, and find out some of their ratings and their write-ups on there. For instance, we're very blessed to have an A+ rating, and you can only have an A+ rating, A, if you've been in business for a certain amount of time, and B, if you've never had a complaint. So there is some due diligence on a part of the homeowner that needs to take place, because what other companies will do is they will fold, and then a few months later, they'll open up a brand new company with a brand new name, a new EIN from the government, and they're up and running. So really a little bit of due diligence from the homeowner. Check out their Better Business Bureau ratings. Look at Facebook and some of the writings. Find out for yourself what certifications that they have. James, we've actually got a couple new certifications recently.
Yes, well, we're certified GAF weather stopping contractors, but who are the biggest manufacturers in the US. But the second largest manufacturer is CertainTeed, and that's a Saint-Gobain company. We've just been upgraded by them so that we can now offer 25-year labour warranties backed by the manufacturer. And that's off the back of making sure all of our guys are qualified, all of our labourers have done qualifications so they know exactly what they're doing. All of my staff have got those same qualifications so they know what they're doing when they're project managing. And so we've got a keen eye on how to do everything per the manufacturer's specifications.
Well, it sounds like that CPA background is coming out where you make sure that everything is very procedural, very organized, very efficient.
And I'm used to taking exams from doing that. So taking the roofing exams is just another step to make sure that I have credibility in front of homeowners.
Well, and what John was talking about, me and Jim talk about this on a weekly basis, really. How to not get scammed, how to not have the right company, or the wrong company, I should say, come out and do work for you, and how much pain that can cause you, or money out of your pocket. Pain can come in many different forms, and if you don't do your homework, you can feel all of those. Which brings me really to my next question. Another thing about the storm chaser, I have a little bit of knowledge through this. I've known some guys that were storm chasers, and they're obviously chasing these storms around, but they're really not in your community, and they're really not going to be there for very long. And I think people just see them when they're knocking at their doors, and you can't find them anywhere. That's probably not the company you want to do your roof.
Yeah, it really is. There are many different nicknames, Pete in a pickup and whatnot, some of these other guys that are running around there. We call it the taillight warranty, and that is as long as you can see their taillights, the warranty's in effect. But brother, as soon as they go over the hill, that's it. That's really where we're really happy to be able to offer a 25-year manufacturer-based labor warranty, which basically means even if Georgia Roof Advisors, for whatever reason, were to go out of business, the labor warranty is still in effect because the manufacturer upholds their end of the bargain. As far as chasing storms, listen, I'm originally from Virginia Beach, Virginia, and we're monitoring the Caribbean as we speak. But the climate that you all have in North Georgia is completely different. We don't have hailstorms up in Virginia Beach like you all do down here, and we don't have the windstorms other than nor'easters and low pressure cells coming down from the south. So just this general area. With all the moisture coming in from the Gulf and the cold air coming in from the west, you're in a specific area where you don't need to chase storms. It's not a matter of if you're going to get hit. It's just a matter of when and how bad.
Well, thank you, John. I can see right now there's a lot to share as far as protecting the consumer when it comes to the roofing industry, and we're right up against the break. But we're here with Georgia Roof Advisors, James Gasson, the owner, and his sales manager, John Wolford. You're listening to Dan and Jim here on the All Four Seasons Home Show. We'll be right back after this message.
You're listening to the All Four Seasons Home Show on News Radio 106.7. Here are your hosts, Dan Watkins and Jim Niarchos.
Welcome back to the All Four Seasons Home Show with your host, Dan Watkins. I'm Jim Niarchos, and we're talking about all things to do with your roof. You know how important your roof is. If you don't, let it start leaking. You'll find out real fast how important it is. And we're here with Georgia Roof Advisors, James, the owner, and John, his sales manager, sharing tips and advice on what you need to look for when you choose a roofer. And Dan, for those of you who may not know, Dan is just not a co-host. Dan is the owner of a local business, All Four Seasons Garage Doors, who makes it possible to even have this show every week. So we thank you for that, Dan. He brings in these experts with a different topic every week. And Dan, during the break, you told me you had a roofing story. Can you share that with the listeners?
Yeah, Jim, I do. And I think it's very pertinent to the listeners out there because this is something most people do not know. But I needed a roof. There had been a hailstorm. Everybody knew there had been hail in the area. I had my roofing company select it. We set an appointment with the insurance company, had to cancel because he wasn't going to be there. He had to go out of town. So he set it up for a different time. The roofing inspector or the insurance company's adjuster comes out anyways. And me not knowing anything, I let him get up on my roof and take a look. Comes back down, tells me, yeah, you've got a little bit of damage. This is all it's going to be. You pay your deductible, and we're going to get you $200. I'm going, well, that doesn't make much sense. Spend $1,000 and get $200. Blah blah blah. Talk to my roofer. He says he never should have come out there. Looks into this. Long story short, they made me just to get them back out, I had to pay another deductible, but he was so sure that I needed a new roof that he said, let's do this. Make sure they come back out when I'm here. We did so. We go up on the roof. Now they get me a new roof. Now, I did have to pay 2 deductibles based upon this, but obviously it was better than paying a deductible and just getting $200 out of it. But what it told me was you need somebody to be your advocate when that adjuster comes over. It may not be every single adjuster, but you know what? They're looking out for the best interests of the insurance company, and you need somebody to look out for you, to have your best interest in mind when it comes to roofs.
Absolutely. And some of the things that come to mind, it's like, I don't think, people would do this, but, you should never go to court without proper representation, right? Everybody else is going to know more about the process and the things than you. But in something as serious as this, you need to have somebody on your side mitigating it on your behalf, because the insurance companies is always going to have somebody, there, doing it for them. Each appointment, when there's an adjuster appointment that takes place, we have one of our representatives attend it, and they're typically there 15 to 20 minutes ahead of time, reviewing the roof report with the homeowner. And when the adjuster gets there, and we work with so many of them, as a matter of fact, we're on a first name basis with most of them. There's no secrets in a Baptist church, and everybody knows each other in this business too. But typically what we do is we walk around with the adjuster and the homeowner, and we talk about it, and we point out things together. And then our representatives will typically get up on the roof with the insurance adjuster, and really we're there to offer a helping hand. We're only working in areas where we know that there's damage. And so if we can provide a helping hand to the guys and help measure things or document things, and if they're having trouble seeing it, we can point it out, show them what we found, and then when we get down off the roof, we have a 3-way conversation with the homeowner to review everything that was discussed on the roof and the final analysis.
Well, I think most people know this, and if they've lived life for a certain number of years, insurance companies just don't like to pay. It doesn't matter if it's your health insurance, your homeowner's insurance, or your auto
Exactly.
insurance. We all have been fighting with insurance companies over the years. So make sure you take care of it. You call you guys out first.
Exactly.
And that is the very important thing that I just really want to
Yeah, it really is. Think about all the commercials you see on television of attorneys and whatnot. Have you been hurt in this accident? You never want to take the first offer. There's something else typically that they're holding back. And believe it or not, many insurance companies will fail to even inform the homeowner that their insurance policies pay to build the house back to code. So it's not just indemnifying you for what's broken, but it's also building it back to code.
During the break, we were talking with you, John, and you made the reference about somebody coming up with a Honda Civic with a 20-foot ladder on top of it.
It's a sight.
Folks, this is something you need to look forward to. And John, I want you to embellish on this. The trucks properly painted and labeled and uniforms and, the whole image. I mean, that's very indicative of a good, probably a real company.
Yes.
A real company. Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. And it's like James and I have had many conversations. Customers do business with those with whom they feel the most comfortable. And I am very big on first impressions. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. And so the vehicles that we use, F-150s, they're in the same color blue as our shirts. I make sure that everybody's got clean shirts, clean pants, shirts are tucked in, trucks are cleaned, both interior and exterior, because in my mind, and maybe this is because I also have a 2.5-year-old right now, but a cluttered room is like a cluttered mind. And so when we pull up in our vehicles, I want everything to be somewhat orderly. When you get out, I don't want junk falling out of the truck. Because,
empty beer cans.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, really. Because you know what? The first impression that you have of that guy getting out of the truck is also going to be the first impression of the crew that comes to your house. And so to me, it's just very important to have something that says, you know what? These guys, they didn't just crank up last week. They've been in this, they've got some experience, and they know what they're doing.
When you're spending thousands of dollars on your home, and me and Jim, again, we talk about this every week. Everybody wants to save some money. There's nothing wrong with saving money. But at what price do you save that money? It's a roof on your house. And if you aren't sure if you're going to be able to find that company, Jim, that's not a very good feeling once that leak comes 6 or 8 months or a year afterwards, and you just realize you made a really bad decision so you could save a couple $100 on something that cost a few $1,000s.
Not only that, Dan, but you got a wife, you got 2 little boys. You got to be careful about who you bring around your house all day, every day, right? Working around the house. You got to look out for your family.
Yeah, you don't want them casing the house.
You don't know, what kind of people that are going to be around your family when you're not there and everything. I had another question here, James and John. What about building permits? Are those necessary? If so, who pulls it?
They are necessary, but only in certain cities like Dunwoody, Smyrna, Johns Creek, amongst a small handful of others. Us as a building company would actually pull that on behalf of the homeowner, and would activate it on the day of the installation and have that showing on the customer's front yard.
So we don't have to worry about it as a homeowner.
No, you don't need to worry
take care.
about it.
Okay.
A question I had for you all, financing. I mean, we've been talking about storm damage a lot, and sometimes somebody just wants to get a roof on their own. It's not the insurance company paying for this. Do you offer financing?
We absolutely do. We use a bank called Enerbank. We can offer various different options. We got the same as cash, 0%. We've got standard loans, and it depends on what scenario it is, how much they want to do, but it's absolutely available.
And just to kind of piggyback that a little bit, I know the roof is the roof, but there's gutters, there's probably woodwork around, different things that you might need. Do you cover all that? Is it turnkey? What do you cover? What don't you cover? What do you deal with? What don't you deal with?
I'm sorry, you want to go?
Sure. So So John's team, they when they do their roof report and they're spending an hour looking at everything on the homeowner's property, they're looking at everything from the bottom of the downspouts to the top of the chimney, and they're looking at everything that needs to be compensated by the insurance company. And when the insurance papers come through, they'll have a bit of gutters, bit of painting, bit of siding, bit of interior paint work if they've had a leak, and all of those different trades. We have trusted people that we use for that, and we subcontract all that out to people that we've been using for many years, and that we know that the customer would be in good hands with.
Well, we're right up against the break again. This is certainly interesting. Don't go away, folks. You're listening to the All Four Seasons Home Show with Georgia Roof Advisors.
You're listening to the All Four Seasons Home Show on News Radio 106.7. Here are your hosts, Dan Watkins and Jim Niarchos.
Welcome back to the All Four Seasons Home Show with Dan Watkins. I'm Jim Niarchos, and we're here with James and John from Georgia Roof Advisors. We're talking about roofs. You know, you never know when a storm's going to hit. You need to make sure that roof's checked out before you have a problem, not afterwards, believe me. And, you know, I'm sure there's different levels of products, different qualities, different kind of shingles. I know when I had my roof done several years ago, we opted to go with what's called an architectural shingle, which supposedly had a longer lifespan, a little more attractive. Can you maybe share some of the options or your recommendations to our listeners on as far as materials?
I'll start off and you can duck in, John. Okay. So the standard builder's grade shingle is called a 3-tab shingle. It has 3 flaps and looks like tiles. And those are just glued down, and if wind gets underneath them, they can't withstand anything over 60 miles an hour. Whereas the next level up is the architectural shingle. That's a laminate shingle, and because of the it doesn't have the tabs on there, so it's literally 4 foot of shingle has got to lift up for it to start creasing. So that actually has a 130 mile an hour wind protection when you use the manufacturer system that we do.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, well, what I was going to ask is when you're putting this on, you're putting these shingles on, what would a company that's kind of trying to save money versus a company doing it right, what would some of those products be that you need to kind of look out for?
Really good question. And a roofing system is a lot like an iceberg. You only see the tip of it, but you never see really what's going on underneath. And so when we put together a roofing system that's going to carry a 25-year warranty, we're using all name brand products that have been approved by the company and that they're going to put their stamp of approval on. When other contractors are out there and they're saying to the homeowner, we can do it for this, we can do it for that, you have to wonder where they're saving the money. And typically it comes from one of two places. A, it's going to come from the product. Most homeowners aren't going to know the difference between felt and other materials, synthetic and whatnot. And they're not going to know the difference between a crew that has been factory trained and day laborers. They're just not. So it really pays dividends. I guess there's a saying, you either pay the cost or you pay the price. You can pay the cost of doing it right up front, or you can pay the price for trying to shave off a corner here, and then the next thing you know, 2 years afterwards and 5 years afterwards, you're coming back to it. But you're exactly right. There are ways to do that, and it's good to double check.
And it just makes you angry too when you do that. You save a little bit of money. I mean, when you are spending that kind of money on your home, you just can't save a couple $100 to go with a non-reputable company. The guy in the Honda Civic.
Well, it's not only that, but you know what? If you don't like your landscaping, if you put in black mulch this year, well, next year you can try brown. Or if you painted the house, or if your wife told you to paint the house,
right.
The interior, if you don't like it, you can change it next year.
That's true.
When you put a $20,000 roof on your house, you're not going to change it next year. You've got to do it right on the front end.
And Jim, I thought that was a great point too. You're just seeing the top of the roof. Right. You don't see everything below that, and that's such a big point for people, the listeners out there. you don't know what's underneath there unless you've done the research and you know you got a quality company that's coming out to
Well,
your
you
house.
know what? It just kind of hitchhiking on that thought, Dan. Another thing too is the vents. What happens in the attic, how you kind of control the level of heat and circulation, everything can also extend the life of your roof shingle, right? You want to talk about how important ventilation is?
I actually pride myself in this. I've become a veritable expert in ventilation. There are manufacturer guidelines that are based on the roof area and the fact that you shouldn't put ridge vents at a lower level when you've got some at a higher level, because the lower level will become an intake. And there's great manufacturer guidelines on the ventilation. And my guys, when they do their the roof inspection, they're looking at what ventilation is currently there and how we're going to use what the intakes that are there at the moment to actually optimize the ventilation for that roof. Because if it's not well ventilated, then the shingles are going to cook from the underneath, and the longevity is going to go down considerably.
And I would assume that can affect the temperature of your house inside too, right, on the second floor, if the attic's not ventilated, and the ventilation, of course, comes from the roof.
Absolutely. A well ventilated roof should reduce your energy bills in the summer and in the winter.
I bet most people don't even think about that when they think of a roof. They
They-
just think of the leaks or that.
No, they don't. And one thing that that I don't know if we've mentioned, but when one of our reps comes out to the house and we do a complete inspection, we take pictures with our phones. Those are downloaded via into our trucks, and we print out a report and go over it with the homeowner. So no matter what we see, the homeowner gets to see it as well. And we have an entire section where we explain how does the ventilation work. And we take pictures of where it comes in at the soffits through the soffit vents. And then we explain either the lack thereof or the sufficiency of the exhaust ventilation that they have, currently. So great question.
I have another question. Oh, go ahead, James.
So just ducking in, a lot of the time people think it's about getting the ridge vent. If they've got the ridge vent, that's it. Their ventilation is good, but it's actually more about intake than it is exhaust. So you can put ridge vent on the whole of the ridge for aesthetic purposes, so it looks good, but it should only be a certain section of it that's open, depending on how much intake you have.
That's a good point.
I had a question just listening to this and kind of another experience of mine. If you've got varmints in your attic, or if you want to make sure you're not going to get varmints in the attic, how much does the roof play a role in that, if at all?
It's funny you asked that question. So earlier I mentioned that sometimes the insurance companies need to build the roof back to code. And wow, here's just something that's really been fun for me is that in 2014, Georgia adopted a new building code called Drip Edge. And basically what it is it's an L-shaped piece of flashing that goes on the rakes and the eaves. And on the rakes, that's the portion right above your gutter. It closes the builder's gap, which is where the decking stops and the top of your gutter begins. And so it's twofold. A, it prevents the water from splashing up, but B, it also prevents critters from getting in as well. And so if it's an insurance-related claim or if it isn't, it would be retail. But every house is going to have that piece of drip edge, that roofing material, which is going to have a twofold purpose. So really it's like knocking down two birds with one stone.
And if you've ever had squirrels in your attic or rats, you do not want them in there because that will drive you insane.
Dan, I smell a story coming. Are you saying that you've experienced that personally?
Yeah, I sure did. In fact, I had the same squirrels come back for about 4 or 5 years in a row.
And you got familiar with it. You built a rapport with them.
Oh, my goodness. They chew that wood, and I've had one of them die, and the bugs get in there. I got all kinds of stories about things like that, Jim.
Oh, my goodness.
But that's why I asked, really. It was that same question when I got my roof done. I said, please do something about this. And I just didn't know if it was always the roofer, the roofers kind of, so to speak, problem to get that done, or their duty.
And there's certain things. For instance, we just did a house where ridge vent wasn't a possibility, but we installed 2 power vents, and the power vents have a design so that critters are prevented from getting inside. The ridge vents that come from GAF and CertainTeed, honeycomb design, they can't get in. The manufacturers have really done a good job of that.
Now, what part does your company play in making sure there's a proper gutter system? There's different widths of gutters. The gutter has to be installed a certain pitch for it to be a successful system and not cause problems. I want to get into that in the next segment, because I know gutters are very important, and it's easy for people, once again, like ventilation, to overlook the gutters, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're with Georgia Roof Advisors here, James Gasson, the owner, and sales manager John Wolford. You're listening to the All Four Seasons Home Show with Dan and Jim. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the All Four Seasons Home Show on News Radio 106.7. Here are your hosts, Dan Watkins and Jim Niarchos.
Welcome back. This is our last segment, and we've had a very interesting show talking about roofs. It's very important, and you never know when a storm's going to come up, so believe me, you want to make sure those roofs are great, and it might be a good idea to get an inspection. We're here with James Gasson and John Wolford of Georgia Roof Advisors. And John, talk to me about gutters. How important is the right gutter system and how it's installed, and the pitch and the size and all that?
Absolutely. You know, the purpose of a gutter system is to void the water off the roof away from the foundation of the house. And so if you don't have the right size gutter to accept the amount of water coming off the roof, or if you have small downspouts that don't, adequately void it away from the foundation, you're going to run into problems further down the road. So a lot of times what we see is when we see the original roof on a house, there's 2 places I've seen where contractors save money. One is going to be on the ventilation up front, and then secondly is going to be on the gutters. They'll put these little tiny 4 or 5 inch gutters on a 12 pitch roof, and we will go out there to take a look at it, and we'll ask, to the homeowners, is there anything else we need to look at? And they'll say, geez, when it rains, that water just comes off like a flume. And immediately I know exactly what they're talking about. And so typically what we do is, if we're dealing with, let's say, hail damage, if there's hail strikes that are on gutters, we will typically complement the house with a complimentary upgrade to 6-inch gutters. If they're approving the 5-inch gutters, the cost difference really isn't that much. But most importantly, what we want to do is we want to leave the homeowner in the best possible position that they can be in. And if they do have a very steep roof, we want to make sure that the gutter is adequately large to accept the amount of water that comes off.
And this is something you guys do too. I mean, if they have a problem with the gutter, you can install new gutters or fix gutters or whatever, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And if it's like the rest of Atlanta during the 80s and 90s too, I'm sure there's some things that some of the builders might have left out the first go round.
No, it really is. And gosh, okay, so as a new guy in the business, here's where you get burned. A lot of these houses that were built, the gutters were installed too low, right? Let's say they're 3 or 4 inches low on the fascia board. And then our crews or another company's crews come in and they build the roof to spec, which is where the shingle only overhangs roughly 3/4 to an inch, okay? And then you're left with this huge gap between the bottom of the shingle and the top of the gutter, and it looks absolutely horrible. And the reason why that happens is because these other companies that we've been talking about, they don't have that discussion up front. Yes, your roof needs to be replaced, but we have to take the whole picture into consideration, because unless we address the gutters as well, it's going to look horrible. And when I mean horrible, I mean you go home every night, right? You're going to see it every single day.
And you're also setting the expectation levels. That's something I talk to, my people about, listen, you're not dealing with a perfect brand new house here. There's issues here, and you need to talk about it beforehand so the customer does understand what's going on. But if that happens, do you have some kind of a solution in that situation? What do you do?
In that situation, what we do is we take the whole job into consideration. And this is one of the reasons why we kept the word advisor in our name, is because we don't just want to put a roof over their house, but we want to leave them in the best possible condition. So many times what we'll do is we'll advise them on a way to get new gutters along with the roof, so that everything, A, is as functional as it can possibly be, and secondly, and this is really, really important for the ladies, that aesthetically it looks the best that it can possibly look.
Isn't that the only thing the ladies care about, Jim?
That's true.
Oh. Do they care about garage doors?
They care about the looks. They don't care about the insulation or the durability per se, but they do care about the looks. We got to keep our women happy.
What about warranties for workmanship and materials provided? You guys want to talk about warranties at all?
Okay, so because
what a consumer can expect from roofing companies in general, I guess, is what I'm looking for.
well, I can talk from our perspective. Because we are certified with GAF and we're GAF certified weather stopper contractors, we offer a manufacturer warranty with them. With architectural, it's 50 years. With the 3-tab, it's 25, and that's manufacturer defect warranty. So if there's anything wrong with their manufacturer, if there's anything any problem you're going to have further down the line because of the manufacturing process, and because we are certified with them, that's a non-prorated coverage. So you're covered for 50 years, and they'll do tear off, they'll supply the labor and the materials, and do that. If we're offering a GAF roof, then there's a 5-year labor warranty that we provide with that. But with Certainty now, we have the 50-year, which some people call lifetime manufacturer defect warranty, but also we have the 25-year labor warranty backed by the manufacturer.
I have a question. This seems like an obvious one that I just haven't thought about. How long is a roof supposed to last? I just have no idea. How long does it last? Does it depend on the material? It certainly depends on who's putting the roof up. I know that. But, I mean, what's the expectation level in general for how long a roof should last?
Yeah, so I love the word lifetime, because people use lifetime, and automatically, as humans, we default, wow, our lifetime, right? Yeah, totally not. If it's a 20-year shingle, it's got a 20-year lifetime. It's of a 30, 30, 50, and 50, right? But again, I'm going to default back to one of our previous segments where we talked about this area. A 30-year roof in Georgia does not last 30 years. You all have weather down here that is very uncommon. You don't find it in Virginia and some of those areas. Typically on a 30-year architectural, if the roof is properly ventilated, you should be getting somewhere between 15 to 20 years out of that.
Okay, well that's about what I thought. I was thinking maybe 10 to 15.
Before the show's over with, and I know during the break we talked a little bit, John, about payment. Real quick, because we're running out of time here. Anything you want to say about payment, what a consumer should expect as far as payment?
Well, if it's an insurance-related claim where insurance is paying for the new system, there's replacement cost value. We meet with the adjusters to make sure that the homeowner receives the replacement cost value. And then if the homeowner would like to use those checks and pay for it, that's fine. If a homeowner would like to use a credit card, that's fine, and financing is available.
So it's flexible.
Too. Absolutely.
Right. Is there anything, James, that you guys would like to offer the All Four Seasons Home Show listeners, any kind of special or discount?
Sure. We'd be happy to offer them a $500 discount on a full roof replacement.
$500 off on a new roof, folks. That's pretty good, Dan.
That's real good. Let's tell them how to get a hold of y'all.
Okay, so our phone number is 678-757-3477. Email inquiries at garoofadvisors.com.
And what about website? Did you mention the website?
www.georgiaroof 106.7'sadvisors.com.
And I know you guys said you're really busy, right? Well, being really busy must mean that you guys are pretty good roofers in my book. There was something, John, you wanted to mention, right? About you guys are so doggone busy. You're looking for a few good men, right?
I didn't know. Yes, I didn't know if this would be the best avenue to share, but why not, right? We've been really fortunate to hit the ground running. We've done a lot of growth in the past few years, and we actually are looking to hire. And what we're looking for is we're looking for somebody that has great hand-eye coordination, which kind of helps if you're walking on a roof, right? It helps not to fall off. You
not
can't,
scared of heights,
right?
right?
Exactly. You can't sign a contract if you fall off. But that would be very beneficial. Somebody that's extroverted, never knows a stranger type thing, meets well, and preferably has an eye for detail.
Great,
which is very important.
Well, if you guys want to work for a great company, you have some experience in roofing, you need to call these guys. James Gasson and John Wolford from Georgia Roof Advisors, thank you so much for sharing all this great information with our listeners. Dan, next week we're going to have Tim Bolton, the pool butler, talk about swimming pools, how to take care of them if you're thinking about getting one. I know you're thinking about getting a pool, right?
Don't give my wife any ideas, Jim.
You've been listening to the All Four Seasons Home Show. We'll be back next week at 9 a.m. Dan Watkins, I'm Jim Niarchos. Have a great week.